Hello, I'm Jonasz Rewiński. Welcome on board the Eastern Express, and as always, I hope you enjoy the journey. This time around, we're taking a deep, curious and slightly concerned look at Belarus in the year 2024. Belarus, Europe's peculiar cousin you wish you knew less about, yet can't help but wonder what it's up to. Especially when America says, hey, US citizens, how about you leave immediately? That is the new official line from the US Department of State, which has updated its travel advisory to level 4, do not travel. And they might actually be onto something. So let's break this down. But first, we're going to be taking a look at our latest report to find out more.
This is Sergei. He is one of thousands of Belarusians who have fled their country in the wake of Lukashenko regime's crackdown on freedom of expression. Belarusian authorities currently hold some 1,300 people as political prisoners. Those who have left the country, like Sergei, still fear for their lives. It turns out that the arm of the regime stretches quite far.
There is a constant threat of physical violence. People are killed. There are constant public threats from the Belarus security officials to kidnap people and return them to Belarus in the trunk of a car.
Roman Protasevich, a Belarusian political activist, was one such case. His Ryanair flight was grounded by Belarusian authorities and he was arrested. As the presidential elections loom over Belarus, many wonder whether it will be a repeat of 2020, whether the grip of authoritarianism will tighten further over the country. Despite the constant condemnations of Lukashenko's regime from the West, there has been little visible resistance in the country itself. Russia has also been paying more and more attention to Belarus.
We can't allow protests at the moment because for 4 years, people experienced such a brutal repressions in Belarus that haven't stopped for a day, and I think that it might be sacrifices in vain.
Almost 5 years ago, the Belarusian people decided they had had enough of Lukashenko and his vision for the country. The dictator didn't take too kindly to his opposition. There have already been reports that the Belarusian police is cracking down on any dissent extra hard ahead of the upcoming presidential elections. It seems that Lukashenko cannot afford a repeat of 2020.
And now we're zooming in on Minsk to take a look at the issue in greater detail. According to the State Department's website, Americans should get out of Belarus, like, now. And why is that so? Well, because there is existing danger for foreigners, risk of detention for seemingly nothing at all, and a concerning lack of local support if you do end up in hot water. And by lack of support, I mean that the US Embassy in Minsk closed in February 2022, so don't go calling for an embassy guard to bail you out of a Belarusian jail. They aren't there, simple as that. And if you're a dual citizen, you can forget about consular assistance entirely. Belarusian authorities are basically saying, congratulations, you're now 100% ours. Belarus has enthusiastically supported Russia's aggression against Ukraine, just in case you forgot. So, you can see the political climate isn't exactly expats welcome. In fact, it's about as inviting as going to a Christmas dinner after you've fought in the kitchen, tense, awkward, and potentially explosive. Thus, the US State Department is shouting, level 4, do not travel, as though it's a fourth installment in a spy thriller. Unfortunately, it is a real-life scenario, and it's not even slightly entertaining. Unless, of course, your definition of entertainment involves rolling the dice on your personal safety. Now, before you run off to cancel your non-existent Belarus vacation plans, let's talk about 2024 and how Belarus sees itself. Oddly enough, the year 2024 has been a milestone for the nation's tourism sector. Yes, you heard that right. Tourism is supposedly booming. But how on earth does a place with a big, bold travel ban from the United States become a tourist hotspot? One word: Russia. In 2024, Belarus partnered with its Russian pals to expand flight routes, create fancy new tourist packages, and basically say, come on down to Belarus, it's safer than, well, Russia is right now. According to Belarusian officials, this synergy is fueling new opportunities, bigger crowds, and ironically, a sense that Belarus is open for business. If you're from Russia, that might be true. If you're from anywhere else, maybe not so much. One thing that's definitely opening is embassies. Yes, it seems the Belarusian government is planning to open an embassy in the Vatican by September 2025. Now, some might question how you can find time to build an embassy on holy ground when your own citizens are facing questionable freedoms at home and foreign travelers are told to get the heck out. And that's what 2024 in Belarus is all about: contradictions, confusion, and confounding realities. On the one hand, you have a government pushing for economic growth, tourism, and more robust connections with Russia. On the other, though, you have a complete disregard for human rights, the closure of Western embassies, and a sham electoral process that is about as transparent as a tinted car window at midnight. And now, here to shed more light on the issue is Dimitri Bulun, co-founder of the Belarus Democratic Forum. Hello and welcome to Eastern Express.
Yeah, hello.
So, Lukashenko seems to be playing the same game again, trying to convince the West that he might be making concessions, so perhaps we should too. Should the West fall for it, though?
Yeah, he thinks about that, but it's terrible for Russia. And from my view, Kremlin is not allow him to proceed process for communication with West. That is because it's long time Kremlin afraid any contact Lukashenko with Euro Union or with US, especially after start war in Ukraine. And now Lukashenko waiting probably if he organize elections in January, and for his view these elections must be so peacefully, but it's
still going to be a sham, right? There are no real opposition candidates running against.
Yes, you're right. Now this elections is a farce, and no interest inside Belarus for these elections. But few days ago, U.S. government, State Department prepared a statement and call for U.S. citizens immediately leave Belarus. And now Russian propaganda, just from the beginning of this week, few days ago, start publish fake materials that U.S. preparing a coup in Belarus. They told that Biden team prepare coup in Belarus, and they planning to spend $380 million for coup in Belarus at the end of January, and a lot of some military people in Poland, in Lithuania, planning to attack Belarus.
So they say they want to organize a coup right at the end of the Biden administration's tenure, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much when Trump would be already taking over.
Yeah,
it doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah,
does
but look at the probably in 25th of December, Maria Zakharova also comments this fake news, and she told that U.S. planning something badly in Belarus. But I think this is dangerous messages, because from my view, these narratives is preparing in Russia, because probably they plan to do something in Belarus in January and organize some provocation against Lukashenko, because so way they planning to not allow him to organize so elections in calm or without any protests. Probably Russia have some plans for destabilize situation, and after that to more and more so do something for save Lukashenko, like so.
What would they like to achieve? Would they like to say, oh, Lukashenko, you're incompetent. You can't even, organize elections safely. So we are going to move in and help you a bit. Is this the narrative they might be pushing for even greater control, even greater mutual dependency?
Yeah, they're planning to more and more control in Belarus, in military, in politics, etc. Probably, if Putin now allow Lukashenka took part in these elections. I know that 4 years ago, Lukashenka and Putin had negotiation, and they have agreement that Lukashenka not took part in next elections. And he just decided to go to the next elections, and now he receives zero money from Moscow for this next campaign. Probably Russia organized something hybrid attack against Lukashenka and try to do something for change him or just control more and more situation in military, in politics, in economy. Probably also is dangerous because Zakharova 2 days ago told that if something will happen in Belarus, Russia will use nuclear weapons. Probably it will be a hybrid attack against Belarus, and after that Putin told, okay, I can use nuclear weapons against...
against whom exactly? I mean, but let's actually take a look at Lukashenko himself, because it is probably unlikely that the elections in Belarus would result in a nuclear exchange, but Lukashenko, from what you're saying, is not trusted by anyone. The West doesn't trust him for obvious reasons. He still keeps more than 1,400 political prisoners, but Putin doesn't trust him either. So could that be the reason why Lukashenko has been putting so much effort to let everyone know that he actually is releasing some of these prisoners? Never mind that Vyasna actually said, look, he released like 200 of them, but also he arrested more than 200 at the same time.
Yes, I think Lukashenko, yes, he waiting that he will have some communication with West, because he told that West and Belarus must be communicate, trade, etc. He wanted to new chancellor in Germany, etc. But I think you're right. Lukashenko must be firstly step and just release political prisoners, but is not too enough now, because he just released 200 political prisoners and repressions continue. And that is terrible, because if he wanted to just communicate with West, firstly he must be release all political prisoners. He must be to change this page and just start new page. But it's difficult, because his mind that all people must be responsible for protest or for some other reasons. And my view also, Lukashenko afraid some new protest in Belarus. That is why he probably just not allow more and more political prisoners release and just control situation in economy and politics, etc. But I think he also received some messages from Kremlin, from Moscow, because he afraid Kremlin. And sometimes my view for Kremlin is also terrible when political prisoners will be released in Belarus. But I think it's now very simple how to release all political prisoners, just temporary stop all trade between Belarus and the Euro Union for 1 week, and all political prisoners will be released. If we want to finish this war, Russian war against Ukraine, I think Euro Union and NATO must be block all ships from Russia, which now located in St. Petersburg or in Black Sea, and it will be game over, because Putin will be in collapsing economy. I think it's easy, but sometimes some real politics is firstly for some European countries who receive money, and if
they don't have the determination, right? They are not willing to go the extra mile. Speaking of the stability of those regimes, you've mentioned Russia, but also Belarus. Could the Lukashenko regime continue to stand on its own without Russia supporting it? Or is that the only reason why Lukashenko is still in power? Is there enough momentum within society to take the opportunity if they see that the regime is wobbly, that it could collapse at some point?
Lukashenko so long in power due to resources from Moscow, firstly, because he received oil, gas, cheap prices, and he have also market for Belarusian products. And firstly, and secondly, he control all political field and political opposition, etc. Media and Belarusian society haven't enough resources for do something in Belarus. Now, after 4 years, it's now a real terrible situation. I think it's one of the dangerous cases among authoritarian countries in the world that was after the Second World War. Belarus now in very difficult situation. I think due to zero resources for democratic forces and due to resources that Lukashenko received from Moscow, he continue play game in Belarus. But also Russia want some changes in Belarus. Changes like more and more control in some fields of Belarusian society, because they afraid, Putin afraid a revolution in Belarus, because he understand what will be happened after that, because Russia now lose Syria,
exactly.
Russia lose Ukraine, Russia lose Armenia, Kazakhstan, etc. And they very afraid if situation in Belarus will be not under control of Russian government, Russian special services, etc.
One quick question. You've mentioned Syria. Obviously, the situation is very different. But doesn't this show that even Russian military presence in a given country doesn't mean that the regime that cooperates with Russia is going to be there forever? Much like, these two countries, very different. There isn't any armed opposition, fighting for territory within Belarus and so on. But
yeah, but
military bases, and the regime is down.
Few days ago, some accounts that probably affiliated with RT, Russia Today, in X, they told about this case with some protest and some campaign against Belarus, and they told if Russia not support Lukashenko, he became like Assad in Syria. They probably planning to do something against Belarus. And for Kremlin, yes, you're right. Situation in Syria is very difficult for Putin, for probably prestige of Putin in the world, yeah. And for my view, now Kremlin will try to more and more pay attention in situation in Belarus, especially in military sphere, because probably Putin planning new hybrid attack against not only Ukraine, only Baltic states, against also against Poland, against Baltic states, because Putin not planning stop this war. Because Putin wanted to continue to organize attack against the Euro Union. And Putin now waiting some negotiation with Trump. Putin wanted to control situation in Ukraine, probably full Ukraine, and probably narratives that I find in internet, some Kremlin statements, they planning to organize negotiation with Trump and cut the world in some spheres of interests between Russia, between the US, between China, etc. Like after the Second World War was Iron Curtain, Putin wanted this.
And then in the meantime, they are organizing hybrid operations like in the Baltic. Cables being cut and all this. So still very much a developing story that we have there. And unfortunately, little chances for Lukashenko to join Yanukovych and Assad in Moscow. Although, who knows, in the future, perhaps. Dimitri Bulun was our guest today here on TVP World. Thank you very much for joining us and for sharing your insight.
Thank you.
And now we're moving on to Eastern Newsflash, a series of all the other stories from the East that you absolutely don't want to miss. Azerbaijani media outlets are reporting that a Russian surface-to-air missile is responsible for the crash of an Azerbaijan Airlines flight near the city of Aktau in Kazakhstan. The claim has also been supported by Ukrainian and US officials.
38 passengers were reportedly killed in the crash as the plane was diverted in its journey from Azerbaijan's Baku to Grozny in Chechnya. 29 other people survived the incident. Various sources say that the plane's communications were paralyzed by an electronic warfare system during its approach to Grozny. A US official told Reuters that there were indications that the plane was hit by a Russian surface-to-air missile. This allegation was echoed by 4 Azerbaijani sources. There has also been speculation in Russian media that defense systems may have mistaken the plane for a Ukrainian drone and fired on it. The idea that it was shot down by a Russian missile has also been vocalized by a Ukrainian official. Russia and Kazakhstan have played down various speculation that a Russian missile was responsible for the catastrophe. Russia's Civil Aviation Authority claimed that a bird strike had caused the plane to crash.
Finnish law enforcement is investigating an oil tanker that allegedly sailed from a Russian port to sabotage a power cable linking Finland with Estonia. This comes as Moscow has been accused, or suspected, of various sabotage efforts against seabed infrastructure in the Baltic Sea.
The S-Link 2 submarine cable was disconnected from the grid a couple of days ago. The vessel in question, the Eagle S, was to sail to Port Said in Egypt under the flag of the South Pacific's Cook Islands. Finland's law enforcement authorities have searched the tanker and interviewed its crew. They suspect that the ship's anchor may have damaged the cable. Finland's president says that the government is monitoring the situation very closely and emphasized that any risks posed by Russia's so-called shadow fleet must be averted. Just a month ago, 2 telecommunication cables were severed in Swedish territorial waters in the Baltic Sea. Russia is highly suspected of being responsible for the incident to some degree, although the matter involves a Chinese vessel. In this case as well, an investigation is also ongoing.
Russian police have issued an arrest warrant for exiled opposition figure Ilya Yashin. He was previously released from jail in August in a prisoner exchange between the West and Russia.
Yashin was a former municipal councilman in Moscow. In 2022, he was sentenced to 8.5 years in prison for criticizing the invasion of Ukraine. It is currently unclear as to what the charges are in the latest arrest warrant against him. Yashin himself says that the quietly pressed charges are meant to lead to his arrest as soon as he arrives at an airport, should he want to return to Russia. He also is unsurprised by the warrant. The oppositionist did not want to leave Russia while he was in captivity, as he believed that prisoner exchanges would only embolden Vladimir Putin to claim more of what he called were hostages. He described his imprisonment as not only a fight against the war, but also for his right to live in his own country.
And for this episode of Eastern Express, it's the end of the line. Please stay with us here on TVP World for more latest news and updates. I'm Jonasz Rewiński. Bye for now.